In this unit, Unit 7, we are going to discuss minimal pairs for sounds in English. You might say, minimal pairs? What's that about? What it's about is establishing or showing the phonemes of English. And we need to do that and have it pretty clear in our mind before we go on to look at spelling patterns. It's essential that you keep in mind the difference between pronunciation and spelling. So also, this will help us understand the sound system of English, which we've referred to before. And this is another way of reinforcing it and seeing the whole system. So let's start with the minimal pairs for consonants in English. And as we saw before, there are 5 manners along the left: stops, nasals, fricatives, affricates, and approximants. There are places of articulation: bilabial, alveolar, velar, dental, interdental, alveolar, palatal, alveolar. And the point is that each of these places has these sounds. And notice the pairs here differ in voicing. But these do not differ in voicing. They're all voiced. These are different in voicing, but these are not. So keep in mind that some sets are different in voicing and some sets are not. Okay, let's look at the bilabial stops, our favorite place to begin. Pet and bet. So notice that the et part is the same and the PB is different. So they're both bilabial, they're both stops, they only differ in voicing. Let's look, and then met is a stop, but remember, you let the air flow through the nose to create the additional nasalization on the stop. Alveolars, tip, dip, only difference, voicing. Nip, nasal, same thing, voiced, stop, plus air going through the nose. Sac, sag, sang, so that you have sac and sag, the K and G at the end are different in voicing, and sang at the end is different because it is a velar nasal. Now let's look at the fricatives. Fat and vat. Again, there's friction at the teeth, fat and vat. Then the interdental THs in English, thigh and thy. Thigh and thy. At the alveolar region, we have sink and zinc. Sink, zinc. Palatal alveolar. These are the somewhat rare sounds in English, but they're there. Asher, azure. Asher, azure. Sh, zh. Now the affricates. Remember, there are only 2 in English. And here they differ only in voicing. Cheap, jeep. And remember, ch is the stop, t plus the fricative sh. And jeep is the d plus the zh. Now let's look at the approximants. And remember, the approximants can be difficult in English. So concentrate on them and try and remember their articulation. So notice that approximants, late, that's the lateral with the side of the tongue being lowered. Rate, we had an entire module on rate because R is probably the most complicated sound in English, with the tongue somewhere in the middle of the mouth, high enough to be a consonant, vowel-like in its pronunciation, etc. But those are 2 different phonemes. In a few languages, they're not. They're allophones of the same phoneme, which can be confusing. The palatal, u and shu. Those are both palatals, but u is the approximant, shu is the fricative. Then we have the approximants w, approximant w which has the labial velar articulation, which is a double articulation. So it's a little tricky in that regard. You have both the lips and the velar region where you are articulating. Will, and remember when it's the beginning of a word, it also has rounding. Gill is the just the labial, pardon me, just the velar to show you the contrast between will, the double, and gill, the singular. Now let's look at vowel minimal pairs. We're going to do much the same thing as we did on the last slide and look at pairs of words which help establish different phonemes in English. Now remember, consonants versus vowels, that's a fundamental distinction in every language. The consonants are up at the top of the mouth. The vowels have the rest of the mouth as their domain. So let's start with beat, bit, bait, bet, bat, butt, boot, book, boat, bought, bot, bite, boit, and bout. And let's remember the long versus the short vowels while we're here. Beat, long, bait, long, boot, long, boat, long, bite, boit, bout, long. So we have 7 long and 7 short. So let's do that. Let's do the short vowels now. Short, bit, bet, bat, butt, book, bought. And if you think about it, these are the 14 vowels of English, so that we have quite a few vowels. And these minimal pairs show you that they really do make a difference in a word. They really are fundamental sounds in English. Many languages have only 5 vowels. English is blessed with 14. So this is a good chart for you to try to memorize if you want to remember what the phoneme vowels of English are. And this brings us to the end of Unit 7.